So Kamar mentioned that there are a bunch of little, or actually, I think a couple of you mentioned that there are a bunch of little things that are said, which can be implicitly racist and damaging when they add up. Can you tell me explicitly what some of those things are, so that we can start to get people to stop saying those things?
Um, for me, just off the top of my head, is crediting my athleticism to the fact that I'm black. We participate in a sport that's also it's extremely athletic, but it's also a mental game and things like that. And attributing my success purely to the fact that black people are supposedly more athletic or something is extremely offensive to me
It
because
undercuts the accomplishment.
yes, it dismisses like all my work and hard work and things like that just to understand the sport of fencing and the fact that they're also promoting a stereotype that's seen all the time in other sports. It's a massive problem.
Yeah.
I would agree with Nicholas there. When I first started fencing, they're like, "Oh, you picked it up so fast. You must have played basketball or you must have done something else before fencing." And yes, I will admit I did play basketball, but I don't think it really had anything to do with my fencing abilities. I don't think that it helped it at all. Another thing I see is a lot of people say, "Oh, you speak well for a black person." And to me, it's like, how do black people speak to you? Like, black people, we
Great
live
God.
everywhere. We live in every community. We are represented and we're seen
Mhm.
everywhere. It's just, do you want to recognize that? That's what it really comes down to.
For me, I think, and I had to have this explained to me at one point in time because I didn't understand it until I physically saw it. Being A lot of people just assume that to be black is monolithic, but there's a lot of different ways to be black, so to speak. Like, for instance, Nick and I are two different people. Like, we're both black, we're friends, but we're not the same person because we're black. And so a lot of people saying
Yeah,
like, "Oh, well, you guys are only good because you're black." I mean, like, no, we're good and we're black, not because.
yeah,
The you speak well for a black one. That's another one. Um, Mine primarily is just people asking me to help them fight. I'm like, please don't. I'd rather not. I've had that a few times where people just assume I'm really good at fighting because I'm black. I'm not good at fighting because I'm black. I just learned how to box a while ago. I'm not good at stuff because I'm black. I'm black because I'm black, and I'm good at stuff because I practice. And people tend
yeah,
to associate all of them with, well, black people are just good at this, so you're just good at this because you're black. Like, effectively saying you were born good and you didn't work for it.
Yeah.
yeah. And then another one for me is when people say something like just racist, like straight up. There's no other way of saying, just be like, "Oh no, I was joking." Um, like there's no way you can say something like that and then say it was a joke because it's just offensive. Like it's not just saying something that is like, oh, just like a little like edgy or something like that. It's something that's been a problem in the community for a number of years, and then you're making fun of it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, how often does that happen?
All the time,
All the
all the
time.
time.
All the time.
Jeez.
Basically, anytime our age, when someone says something that's racist and then we say something, they'll be like, "Oh, I was kidding. I was being sarcastic." And they only say that after we say something. Because if we didn't say
Yeah,
it was racist, they wouldn't have been like, "Oh, it's a joke," as a defensive mechanism.
Yeah.
yeah. And just when you say something misogynistic, racist, homophobic, there if the reaction is not good from the
They're joking.
people, yeah, then they're joking, and
Yeah.
I just find an extreme problem with that. Like I know a lot of people will say like, oh, like you're trying, like are you stealing this or something like that, and I'd be like, bro, like what are you saying? And they'd be like, man, I'm joking, I'm joking, I'm joking. Or if I'm like eating a certain food, it'd be like, oh, well, you're eating that like because you're black, right? And I'd be like, nah, it's good food. Like, nah, man, I'm joking, I'm kidding around. Like,
Another
yeah,
that goes back to
when I
something.
hear that,
Sorry, my bad, Dave. That goes back to another story that I have from a while ago. In the community, it's to a point where they also have a since they have a lot of pre-existing biases. my mom had to explain to me, like, if somebody like has their purse down, you get up and you just walk away. Like, get up and leave. Get up and literally just get up and walk away, because if something goes missing, it will be your fault even if you took nothing, and you don't want to go through that because you're not going to win. So just leave. And for the longest time, I thought like that's what everybody had to do. And I was like, wait, she's sitting next to a purse that isn't her. And then I was like, okay, I see what this is.
Yeah.
We have as Black people. My bad. Go ahead, Malcolm.
No, I was just about to say, back when Kamar said, being Black isn't monolithic. There are a bunch of different types of Black people. A lot of the times I feel like people forget that there is no, I mean, obviously there's a Black community in fencing, but there is no, community of Black fencers. Like, we don't all gather in one spot and discuss how we're all going to act, what we're all going to do. And a lot of the time, it seems like something that's obvious, but people might not realize it. Like, I've been asked sometimes, why does PWF have so many Black people? And it's like, first of all, I'm not even a part of Peter Westbrook Foundation. Second of all, how am I supposed to answer that? So it's just, the idea that because the sport is not very diverse, that all of the Black people in the sport must know each other in some way, which, we know obviously isn't true. And obviously we don't all think the same way. We don't know everything about each other. And I think part of that might just come from people looking for answers, right? They know that they don't know a lot about people that may not look like them or sound like them. And so, they turn to somebody who doesn't look like them for an answer. But it's the way that they go about learning more of people who are different from them that sort of just comes off as ignorant. Like, I'm sure that, there was no harm meant if they ask, do you know so-and-so? Like, do I know Kamar? Do I know Nick? Do I know whoever? But it's just sort of like, why would you specifically ask me that if this is the first time that we're meeting?
Going back to the PWF concept, a lot of questions I've had about PWF, one, people assuming I went there. Like, no, I live in Atlanta. Two, like,
yeah, we're from Georgia.
We're across the country. Also, my mom pointed this out to me a while ago. It was the reaction that people had to that PWF, which is a predominantly African-American club, and their response to them cheering on their teammates, being supportive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where how they almost kind of get looks at, and people look at them from afar, and kind of, you could tell that they're uncomfortable by the support that they're giving their teammates. But when
you mean because of the cheering, like when someone is fencing?
Yeah, literally just the cheering, or literally just the support that they're providing on strip, versus they could be doing it against another club, and everyone, it's usually all eyes on PWF if you look. And my mom pointed this out a while ago, and that's one thing that I've realized, like, sometimes it's not even saying, you don't have to say anything. It's just your reaction and how you present yourself in the presence of really just a club supporting a club. It's not much deeper than that, because like, it's not a race thing at that point. It's just literally a club that is predominantly Black people supporting their teammates. And I don't know what it is with, like, what it is there that makes people so uncomfortable, but it's literally just support.
Exactly. Like, when I first got into fencing, the only like cheering I saw was like the like polite golf clap and things like that. But then when you go to tournaments, and as you start getting like older and like more vocal and things like that, like, I know for me, like, when I cheer my friends on, I go crazy, because like I love seeing like their hard work pay off. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I might be wild on the side of the strip. You know what I'm saying? And people like look at me like what is he doing? I'd be like, this is the way I just express myself and things like that. And I get judged because of that. And then also it's like, back to what Kamar said earlier about like, about leaving, like when there's a purse right there. We as Black people just have a set of rules that we have to follow that's taught by our parents for us to avoid getting in trouble. And these rules are rules that are pretty unique to us. Like, I know in my interactions with just authority figures in general, and I apply that to refs, I apply that to coaches at tournaments, just so that I'm seen as somebody who's polite and respectful, even though I'm already like that. But you have to up it a little bit because of they already have a bias against you from young.
It's like you have to work twice as hard to basically be viewed as the person you actually are in any capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And for sure, I just want to touch on something Malcolm said about how some people just don't know and that they're trying to ask, but they're just not doing it the right way. I just want to give an example. So someone who has a question, I just want to make it clear that it's okay to ask. It's how you do it. And an example of how you can do it is say, hey, Michaela, I don't quite understand this. Could you explain it to me so I can learn a little more? And so that way, maybe I can recognize my own racial biases and get rid of them. I think, and I've had a lot of conversations with my peers, especially during this time. And a lot of my friends are recognizing that, hey, I have this racial bias. Hey, I have this stereotype. Michaela, can you help me? And I think when you view it that way, you'll get a lot more positive change done. And it's okay to recognize that you have a problem, but it's not okay to not try to fix it.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. Also, going off of that, it's just like, if you ask me a question, don't act like I'm a representative for all Black people.
Yeah.
Because like what both Kamar and Malcolm said, we're not all the same people. We share a lot of things. We share a lot of our culture and things like that. However, I'm not gonna know every single thing about Black culture purely because I'm
Because it varies. Black isn't monolithic. Black in someone's neighborhood might be different than Black in mine. We're all molded by our experiences, but the problem is like being Black in different parts of the country has so many different experiences and so many different connotations that we're all different people. We're all different. So like that's why, going back to PWF, New York is an environment that has encouraged that for a while. So there's one or more that are out there doing it. And two, the culture is different than necessarily in the South, where it's more recently starting to become common.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is just like if you were trying to figure out some information, this is just an analogy for a paper that you're writing, you wouldn't go to one source. If you're trying to fix your racial biases, don't just talk to one African American person. Talk to multiple, listen. And I think it's a big thing if people who aren't people of color would just take the time to listen and listen to the stories, this problem would have been solved a lot faster. And I just want to tell anyone who's watching this that if you have a question, feel free to come talk to me. I'm available.
Yeah, we don't bite.
Yeah. And we all share that same sentiment. If you have a question, just go ahead and ask. I know Malcolm in this past week he's been posting on his Instagram story, like, hey, like slide up if you have a question and things like that. And that's been like really great because I know people have actually been like tapping in a lot and giving him questions, and he always answers with empathy, always answers with understanding. So
I will be
really
posting a link. I will be posting a link to every one of your Instagram in the information if you guys.
Yeah, just send me a DM if you have anything.
Yeah.
Like I posted a couple days ago my opinions on everything that's been going on recently, and a lot of people on Instagram Live, and a lot of people actually put in questions and things like that. And I love taking the time just to make sure everybody understands what's going on, because this is a big problem in our country, and I'm willing, and I'm pretty sure everybody is willing to take the time to go ahead and fix it.
Yeah, I think another problem I'm seeing is a lot of people are just genuinely scared to say something think that they're racist or something. But I just want to let people know that if you're respectful and kind with how you ask, like we talked here today, your conversation stays between us. And I'm sure that applies with everyone on this call.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, just like, whenever I talk to somebody, I tell them like, just like how you don't know everything about me because you're not me, you're not in my shoes. Same way, I don't know everything about you. I'm not you. I'm not in your shoes. And unless you are in somebody's shoes, unless you can directly identify with them, you won't fully understand your experience or their experience. And that's impossible. So the best thing that we can do is just hold discussions like these, talk about your experience, empathize with people, and understand that people, grew up differently. They're from different backgrounds. And just because they may not see things the way that you see them, doesn't mean that they have any hatred or malice towards you. But if we're going to fix an issue such as racial injustice in America, we all need to be on the same page first.
Absolutely.
Traveling My bad. I was just gonna say that traveling has me personally traveling and making friends all over the place, and just having sit down conversations with people, like it really makes a difference. I've met all kinds of people, from people that are naturally really accepting to really, really like off the bat, really racist, like pretty much borderline Nazis. And we've all been like, and they all just asked me the questions that they've had. And I was like, well, that's not necessarily the case. And eventually, one thing I've gathered is a lot of it boils down to people expecting Black to be monolithic. All Black people that look the same are going to act the same. That's not the case. How I act is not necessarily because I'm Black, but it's because of how I act, and I just happen to be Black. There's no direct correlation. And when people communicate and people aren't afraid to ask questions and people aren't afraid to have discussions, it can clear up a lot of bias. And I promise it's not like, if you just ask, you can get answers. Questions lead to answers, not necessarily always in a bad way. Like, you can get good answers, you can have good discussions, you can really learn more if you want to learn more. The problem is a lot of people don't want to know more, and so it's hard to help.
I think it's an important point to reinforce that this is not anything other than a learned behavior, and sometimes it just stems from the fact that you don't know anyone from that community, so the only thing that you have to go on are biases and the things that you've heard about it. And so then, like, once you meet someone in that community, you kind of stop thinking of them as like a Black person or a gay person and just start thinking of them as a person, because now you have something tangible that you can actually integrate into your experience.
For sure. Like, I live in a predominantly white neighborhood and white community. So when my family and I first moved here, a lot of our neighbors had like premeditated opinions of what we would be like and what we would act like when we first moved in. But then we started having discussions and reaching out and talking to our neighbors, and I'm witnessing a lot of my neighbors change how they think of African American people as a whole because of this.